One of the busiest and most popular cruising seasons of the year is officially upon us. That's right, it's summertime, where millions upon millions of people are expected to cruise in the coming months. However, out of those millions, there are going to be a lot of first-time and inexperienced cruisers. While that's not necessarily a bad thing, this does unfortunately mean there will be a lot of issues and problems. Arguments and disagreements, physical altercations, bad financial decisions, medical emergencies, and even man overboards are almost guaranteed to take place within the next 90 days during this summer season. However, for all of you that are inexperienced to cruising or have never cruised before, I'm going to help you out today by giving you 8 simple tips for first-time cruisers. After tip number 1, do keep in mind that the rest of these tips are in no particular order of importance. They are all equally important and ensure that you will have the best vacation of a lifetime. But for number 1, I mention this all the time, make sure you plan your trip accordingly. Make sure you cross the T's and dot the I's. I'm talking about go over the cruise line you want to sail with. Make sure you have all the clothes that you want to wear for any of the theme nights. Make sure you plan and research all of your activities and excursions that you want to take. That way you aren't spending money on useless things, and that way you aren't disappointed with anything as far as it goes for the ship. So many times I meet and talk to people that didn't put any thought into the cruise that they decided to take. They heard from a friend of a friend of a friend that this line that they decided to sail on was the best one, and now they aren't having such a great time. I was once on board a celebrity cruise ship, and don't get me wrong, celebrity is great. I met some young ladies that said they wanted to find the party. They wanted a little bit of ratchet. And while the older crowd on board celebrity cruise ships know how to get down and have a good time, it just wasn't what they were looking for. I told them straight up that they made the wrong choice. They should have chose a Carnival or maybe a Virgin Voyages that would have better suited them. If you want to relax, yes, celebrity can have a little bit of mix depending on the itinerary, like most cruise ships and cruise lines out there. However, if you want it to be a guarantee, then you could try a Princess, you can try a Holland America, whatever floats your boat. By the way, don't say boat, a big pet peeve that I have. It's a ship, not a boat. Let's get that right as we move forward in this video. Anyway, you want to do your homework when it comes to your cruise. Most cruises, for example, have theme nights. Some have the white night, some have the 90s night. You wouldn't know this unless you actually went out of your way to see what's going on. A lot of people, for example, will join a Facebook group, or they will just simply contact their local travel agent, which you can do. So I'm a travel agent myself if you don't have one, or you can check out our travel agent sponsors, Lux Rally, link for which will be in the description box below, as well as pinned in the comment section. When it comes to excursions, make sure you do your research, do your due diligence, check the reviews, make sure the company you're operating with is extremely reputable to make sure you are not dissatisfied. I was once in the Bahamas and I did the swim with the pigs excursion. The excursion itself wasn't horrible at the start. We swam with the pigs for about 10 minutes, and after that we were stuck on a crappy beach for the next 5 hours with no way of getting back over to the ship and nothing to do but get burned by the sun and eat crappy hot dogs and chips at the one stand that they had. Moral of the story here, do your research as much as possible when it comes to your cruise vacation to ensure you have the best time possible. Number 2, please remember that you are not special. I know there are a lot of people out there that want to be fashionably late to events. Don't miss the ship. It will leave without you. Once you're on board, one thing I noticed that naturally people do find their people on board. While there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, there are a couple different categories, 2 primarily, that really bother me on board cruise ships, and that is the cool kids club as well as the sweets guests. You have the cool kids, by that I mean there are people like, let's say influencers. People think that because they have 30,000 followers or whatever the case may be on TikTok, that they are above everyone else and don't associate with anybody and look at other people with such disgust. And you see it with the sweets guests as well. People think that because they have an extended balcony junior suite that they are the king and queen of the cruise ship. You are not special, and nobody cares about what you have on board or how cool you think you might be back at home. You're a normal person, so just act as such and socialize, be friendly, get to know some people, because you might end up having those people add on to your vacation and ensuring you have a good time. Number 3, while you should of course be respectful to everyone, please, above all, be respectful of the crew, the workers on board cruise ships. As somebody that has worked on board cruise ships, I can tell you right now, it is already hard as it is, being away from your family and friends that you're trying to provide for anywhere between 6 to 9 months or even longer. You have a lot of people, and this is a big pet peeve that I have, that talk down to the workers because they paid for a cruise. They think that these people that are working on board are your slaves, your servants, and are beneath you, which is obviously not true. While they are there to serve you and aid you in your vacation of a lifetime, they are not your direct servants for you to talk to any kind of way. That's something that for me just boggles my mind, and it infuriates me when I see people, especially when you know damn well that they probably work at the dollar store back at home, but they think because they paid $1,000 for a cruise, they are now above other people. Make sure you take care of the crew because they can, of course, take care of you as well. Taking care of a bartender with a nice tip can go a very long way. To free drinks being prioritized. Same with your room storage. Be respectful to the crew, tip them well, and you will have a great time. Number four, this is a huge one. Please pay attention. Be careful who you cruise with. And I'm talking about your family, your friends, or your significant other. Let's start with the family first. Naturally, families do tend to argue quite a bit and bicker. If you don't, then there's probably something wrong with your family. You guys are very odd. Families do argue from time to time, and when you add the element of a cruise where there's a million things to do and money has been spent, it can potentially cause some drama. If you and your family are deciding to go on a cruise, make sure you guys align as far as what it is you want to achieve while on board the cruise. When it comes to friends, it is more or less the same situation. Make sure as far as the budget and as far as your ideas of what you want to do for your fun, you guys align. If you disagree on some areas, you have that conversation and you move on with it. One person likes to play bingo, another one likes to bed wrestle by meeting somebody at the nightclub, which there's nothing wrong with. Enjoy your cruise, have some fun. However, one thing I will stress when it comes to both of these categories as well, or really all of them, because we said I talk about the boyfriend-girlfriend situation, make sure your person that you are cruising with or people are of stable mind. If somebody has been going through a lot, I understand naturally a lot of people say, well, you just need a vacation. The amount of times we've seen in man overboard situations where people were not of stable mind, they were going through some stuff back at home, and in the middle of the night, for whatever reason, they decided to jump off the ship. You just want to make sure your people are okay to cruise. When it comes to the taking of a cruise with a significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, what have you, make sure you guys are stable on land before you get on the ship. I have seen it all. Aside from the stereotypical bachelor and bachelorette parties before somebody gets married, things have gotten out of control there, but there's been some things that I have seen on board cruise ships. As somebody that is a socialite, I am running around and I'm hearing all the tea and gossip and seeing a lot of things that go on. Given it's not me doing it myself, but it is interesting to watch. I'm a huge people watcher. You have, let's say, couples that are in a disagreement at the moment and they're fighting and arguing. The husband then goes out and looks for some extra tender love and care, or the girlfriend, and just like that, they done run off to some other cabin or bathroom or ledge, you name it, because on board a cruise ship, I don't know if it's the motion of the ocean or what, people tend to let loose a little bit more. There is no track record. You can have fun with some random dude, a sailor on a ship, and never see them again. Just be careful with your relationships on board cruise ships, because trust and believe, whether it be the pineapple people or just other people trying their luck with your significant other, things could happen if your relationship is a little rocky. Don't believe me? 1 year ago, there was a magical moment that took place on a Carnival ship, coincidentally known as the Carnival Magic, a 60-man brawl with a man's wife over a threesome. Believe it or not, it actually happened. Look it up on Google. And there's also a reason why in movies, let's say the end of The Hangover, if you remember, they were talking about things that took place on board a cruise ship. He wasn't a sailor, he was a bartender. Number five. Please watch your kids, especially the teenagers. Definitely the teenagers. I'll explain why here in a second. Oftentimes, whenever a cruise is taking place and there are a lot of kids on board, for some reason, parents assume that since there is railing and a teen nightclub and a basketball court, that the kids can run off all unsupervised, willy-nilly, and nothing at all is going to happen to them. Surely they won't get hurt. Surely they won't fall off the cruise ship. Surely they won't get into a little mischief. Well, I got news for you. It is 100% a thing. For starters, people think that just because we're on a cruise that there aren't going to be creepy people on board. There are plenty of creepy and weird adults running around on board cruise ships. Make sure you know where your kids are at all times. When it comes to the nightly activities, there's a reason why there are curfews in effect, and I do believe that they should probably be a little bit earlier. You got teenagers trying to sneak into the nightclub, and some lines out there, MSC, don't have any age restrictions whatsoever. So you got 16-year-olds in there mingling and mixing with men that are in their 20s and potentially even leaving with them. And even aside from that, when you have a bunch of kids of the same age, some come from different backgrounds, some like getting into a little bit of trouble, some have gotten away with getting in a little bit of trouble. Influence is a powerful thing. Yes, your little Johnny may be an angel at home, or so you think, but they get around the wrong kids, and just like that, they're getting in trouble because they were heavily influenced by those other kids. I could talk about this all day. Just watch your kids. I don't want to sound like a broken record here. Number 6, keep track of your expenses during your cruise. I don't know how many times I've been concluding my cruise, getting ready to disembark, and lo and behold, over at guest services, there is a massive line of people that have racked up some fees that they did not pay, and they are surprised it even exists. One of which, probably the most popular that springs up on people that have never cruised before, are the auto gratuities, the auto tips that get taken out of your account every single day during your cruise, unless you opt to pay for it prior to the cruise, or this may be frowned upon by some people, they decide to straight up turn it off so they don't incur those fees while on board. I was recently on a Norwegian cruise, and upon disembarking the ship, there were two men that were arguing with customer service because they had racked up a whopping, I kid you not, $15,000 debt over at the casino. This is something that is not uncommon because there are realistically no limits to what you can spend over at casinos on board cruise ships. Same with medical services. You fell down the stairs and you got to get stitches. That debt to the medical facility must be paid prior to disembarking. You go to a restaurant, you are going to have additional charges for all of the food and drink that you consume. Just be mindful of that while you're on your cruise, and keep an eye on your bar tab and all of the fees you're incurring during your cruise. That way you don't have all of this surprise you at the end. Number 7, control your drinking. I know, Billy Bob, you are used to pounding away 5 PBRs every single night after work. However, you have elevated, you've moved up in the world. You got the premium drink package. You can now indulge in premium items. And you haven't drank like this since you were 18 back in college. This is definitely something I see on literally every single cruise, and I have no shame in saying that I am guilty of it as well. Whenever you go on a cruise and let's say you don't drink at home, because I really don't drink at all when I'm not on a cruise, we get the drink package and one thing leads to another, and you have one drink in your hand and next thing you know that's empty, and then another drink's in your hand and people are bringing shots. You have to be mindful of your personal alcohol preferences, how much you can handle, know how much you can handle, and of course be accommodating to that and be vocal about it with your friends and the people that are around you. Trust me when I tell you, the last thing you want on your cruise is a massive hangover. You miss out on so many events, and as somebody that is now across the 30 line, it don't exactly hit like it used to. I used to be able to drink nonstop when I was working at this theme park over at Tampa Busch Gardens. I was partying with the Russians, and I would bounce back the next day and doing backflips in 100-degree weather. Now, I need at least 3 days before I start drinking again. I think most of you can agree with me on that one. A few weeks ago, like I told you earlier, I was on a Norwegian cruise ship, the Norwegian Breakaway. We stopped at their private island over in the Bahamas, Great Stirrup Cay, and I was walking around the beach by myself when I ran into a man that was face down in the sand, not responsive, in his, I'm gonna say mid-20s, and I come to find out later he was from up north. He was like the New York area. Between the drinking and the hot sun, which is something he wasn't accustomed to, he ended up getting extremely sick. Come to find out, he had alcohol poisoning. I called for help. They picked him up and wheelchaired him back over to the ship. Turns out he needed to get off of the ship and go back over to the Bahamas to the nearest hospital to get his stomach pumped because he unfortunately had alcohol poisoning, all because he couldn't control his liquor. And of course, there's the factor of the heat. So you want to avoid these things from happening. Finally, last but not least, for number 8, I'm going to make this short and sweet. Please relax on the cruise ship. And by that, I mean, don't get so emotional. The amount of fights I have seen take place on board cruise ships, and yes, I'm talking about physical altercations, for the dumbest of reasons. You have a guy that is trying to skip in line to go to the bar, and just like that, there's an altercation, or he's with his girlfriend, and he decides to fight somebody because somebody looked at his girlfriend the wrong way. I've seen a fight take place at a nightclub. There was a girl that was sitting in the seat. She left that seat for about 45 minutes and was infuriated and shocked that another person had taken her seat. She then started throwing hands after arguing with the girl, and now she ended up being in the brig, the cruise ship jail. The other girl ended up being basically on house arrest. One of those two things are going to happen where you're stuck in your room for the remainder of the cruise or until the next port, in which real police officers will come and pull you off and take you to jail. And to be honest with you, that jail might not be in America. Something you want to avoid. Anyway, that's what we got for first timer tips. I hope you guys enjoyed and found this valuable and helpful in some kind of way. You want to add on to it, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I may make a part 2, not sure yet. If you want to see a part 2, of course, let me know. Type it in the comment section below and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Hit that like button on your way up. Subscribe if you haven't already. I love all of you and I'll see you later. Take it easy.